Drop everything and clear those ears. It's time for the Dave and Dave Show.
Dave Marino.
Go 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Let's win some 1, 2, 3. Some three games parlays. Parlays. You're killing me, Whitey.
Game's over in the first half. How about that?
Greetings from the Sunshine State. How's things going up there in the sleety old Jersey?
It's gotten really nice. The golf course, people are out there whacking the ball around a little bit. Yesterday was very nice. It was like 50 degrees around here today, and more like high 40s, but still, it's been so cold for so long, it feels like springtime, and everybody's out there thinking baseball, as we are, and definitely thinking golf. So.
Yeah, the little good of golf. It looks like the weather's like opening day at Wrigley, you know?
We're definitely going to do something. We're going to have some prognostications for the Masters, of course.
Yes.
A little bit of time on that one, but we'll do that one.
We'll dip into the
Players Championship, maybe. That might be fun.
We got the Derby coming up. We got the Masters. We're going to weigh in on those. But it's springtime, and we all know what springtime means, baby. March Madness. Gotta love it. We're doing battle. We're doing battle just like the SEC and the ACC. We're battling. All right. Say hello to the folks there going out to play a quick ride.
They had a good day on the lakes. All right.
Stopped into the 19th hole. But you having a nice beer there? Who sponsoring today?
This is the Founders, unofficial sponsor of the Dave and Dave Show, soon to be official sponsor. This is the KBS Stout. This stuff is amazing.
Oh, anyway. All right.
Amazing. Anyway.
Well, where is Founders brewed?
Let's take a look at some of those teams we were talking about last week. I just real quick talk about what they did this past week, good, bad, or indifferent. So the first one, top ranked team that I picked as a player for the tournament.
Well, real quick, Dave, not to interrupt, you had a monster week last week. I did the week before. I did a 4-1.
Right.
Were you 5-0 or 4-1? Yes.
No, I was 4-1. We put the kibosh on Texas A&M against Tennessee.
Yes.
They fooled around with maybe winning that game or, certainly being in it. They ended up losing. Other than that, I had Oregon, Houston, Arkansas. Oh, no, Houston under, Oregon, Arkansas, and St. Mary's. Gonzaga. That was a nice win for them.
Beautiful.
Followed it up with a rather lackluster performance last night against Loyola Marymount. But anyway, so 4-1 last week on the hardwood of college. So that was fun. That was good there.
It's great. I'm loving it. I love the parity. Great. Going to be a great tournament. This year, it seems like the teams are more even than the years past. There's not clear favorite. I know you can. Yeah, you can back Auburn if you want. He's only lost twice.
Not with your money.
Yeah, there's a ton of good teams out there. So let's start it off. Go
tomorrow.
Ahead. So who do you got your eyes on? Do you want to talk about first?
I wanted to just go over some of the teams that we thought were looking solid and might be nice prices going into the tournament. I mean, I'm not going to play those odds games, those futures games, just because I think the payoffs are so terrible.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about teams that I think are going to be able to maybe spring an upset in the first round, maybe win a couple of games where they're not even that great a seed or something like that. If they are a good seed, teams that we think can go, maybe not necessarily all the way to the Final Four, but solidly win a few games. And of course, which is important to us, cover. We don't care if you win in the tournament and you're not covering. I mean, we had a conversation about college basketball the other day, and you identified a couple of teams right off the top of your head. I was very impressed with the fact that you're in sync without even looking at their spread record, just saying, why aren't we doing this? Or why that team bothers me because they win, but they don't cover. You mentioned Duke.
Oh,
who have been on a roll, and they won 4 in a row against the spread, and they're winning by big numbers. Obviously, very scary team. Not the kind of team that I normally take, so best to stay away. That would be my take on Duke games right now. Would be staying away from them until I see a situation with a team that I think is maybe underrated that is playing against them, be it in the ACC tournament or the very end of the season, the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament. The other team that you identified was Memphis, about how, they're kind of like a top 20, top 25 type team. They're first place in their conference, but boy, they win and don't cover a lot. And I looked at the numbers for them the other day, and they are not pretty. They're not pretty at all. 12-2 in their last 14 games straight up. Okay, only 2 losses, 12 wins. Almost any team in the country would take that. But 4-10 against the spread, and we don't want that. We don't want anything to do with that team because they win.
We're all
by
about
6 when they're laying 10. They win by 4 when they're laying 7. That kind of thing. So thankfully we've been staying away from Memphis State. I know I have been. I took Wichita State against them recently, so I was happy about that. But for all those people out there who've been, throwing good money on Memphis, might want to take a step back and maybe look at the other team in their conference, North Texas State. We're going to talk about them in a second. First team that
Green was good for us last night.
So I'm just going to look at the team that I thought was one of the top-ranked teams in the country that I thought could do some real damage in the tournament and maybe even win it all, and that's Florida. They played 2 games since we spoke about them last. Over the weekend, they played LSU, and they smashed them. Okay, great. But then they turned around and they played on Tuesday night. They played Georgia. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that game. Just not good. Not good.
Other than it's a rivalry. You got to.
Yeah, I will give it that, and I will also say this: Georgia is not that bad a basketball team.
No,
they're not. They're pretty good, and they showed it the other night against Florida. Hopefully, if you're a Florida fan, or if you're thinking about backing them down the road, that was a little bit of a wake up call. I think it was. So I'm putting a positive spin on that game, although it wasn't a great loss. Wasn't a great second half, that's for sure. Okay, the next team I took a look at, which is more of a maybe a top 15, top 20 team, was Maryland, and they were coming off a game where they smashed somebody the night before when we talked about them last Friday. But then this week, they had a heartbreaker against Michigan State, where they got beat by a shot from beyond half court to lose the game. An interesting game. I watched quite a bit of it. No other way to describe that game other than a little ugly. I mean, Maryland scored 55 points. They have not been anywhere near that all season long. They don't score 50 points. They're normally 80, 85. They're normally good for that amount of points. 55 points. And of course, Michigan State, very tough team, and on the road, digging in and playing Maryland, tooth and nail. And it was an ugly game that ended up ending on a 60% of the court shot from the.
But we both commented.
Boom, right in.
You just said tooth and nail. We both commented that Maryland could have packed it away, and they fought back. They weren't playing their best game. They had a poor shooting percentage that night, but they're well coached and they fought back. They had a chance to get that game into overtime. I'm wishing they did.
It was the only chance for anybody who backed them because
we needed them to cover.
Respect that they were a fairly decent favorite in that game. Whatever,
right.
3.5 points, 4.5. I think it was 3.5, something like that. So against a really good Michigan State team, which those teams always play better at the end of the season. I mean, there's been many years where Michigan State looked mediocre at the beginning of the year, and by the end, they're right up there with the top teams.
You're right.
Maybe even win it, like in 2000 when I had them in my bracket pool to win the whole thing. And they
very, very nice, David. No, we were commenting on
they played Florida in that final.
Yeah. we were commenting on the Spartans as well, how we liked the way they were. And then I went against them a couple of times, against Michigan, against Maryland. And I was, taught a lesson, but by Mr. Izzo. But it just goes to show you, these teams that are peaking at the right time that we're talking about. Real quick on Duke, it's like they're pummeling on the spread these minor teams. But look at them early in the year. They lost to Kentucky. They lost to Kansas. They beat Auburn, and now they're on a roll, of course, because they're playing ACC teams. It's going to be really interesting what the lines are going to be when they get into the tournaments. We're still trying to figure out what teams do they really excel against.
You also have to look and see who's going to challenge them in the ACC. I know you love Clemson, and
well, we had them.
Other
right?
than Clemson, who else?
You and I had them. You and I had Clemson against Duke. They've been covering like crazy. What about SMU? I mean, they're a real young team, but they're winning. Louisville's on fire.
Yeah, Louisville is like almost the team that like nobody's paying any attention to.
Exactly.
I mean, the odds makers are. Their lines are often huge in their games. So you're not getting any bargains on Louisville. But they're kind of sneaky. I think it's that so much people were accepting the fact that Louisville, who had been, a top 20 team and a national championship contender for 40, 50 years, all of a sudden dropped off the table with all the, sanctions against them and things like that. And they were very bad for quite a few years in a row. Well, they ain't bad anymore. They're pretty good. So
15-2.
They're going to be in the tournament. They're in the tournament for sure. And they're a team that might be able to give Duke a little bit of a tough time.
That ACC tournament should be interesting. With Duke, Clemson, Louisville, and SMU. Drops off a little bit when you get down to Wake Forest.
I like Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Wake Forest is my sleeper ACC team.
I got your sleeper.
There's a lot of crap
later in our top 5.
A lot of crap. All right.
Yeah, and then what do you want to say about?
We gotta move along because
a
lot of things to cover. Because I'm actually taking a couple games tonight and then 5 games tomorrow. We were also looking at St. John's. St. John's for the week. They're just having a great season. Maybe the Big East is a little down this season with UConn not being anywhere near what they've been the last couple of years. But still, St. John's went and played them, and they just beat the shit out of them the other day. And then they won
against UConn.
What was it, 2 nights ago?
Yeah.
That Butler game, that's a sneaky good win. At Butler and prevailing, in my book, that's a good win.
Yes.
So,
after a real emotional win, no letdown. Good coaching. He's really challenged those kids, And I was asking you, I'm like, do they have the size or anything like that? And you're like, not so much, maybe.
Well, the knock on him was the outside shooting, and the outside shooting against Connecticut was terrific.
On fire.
Yeah.
So
then I'm looking at some of the more of the kind of sleeper mid-range teams coming out of smaller conferences. Looking at St. Mary's. St. Mary's had a huge win at Gonzaga. Okay. Gonzaga they're 10th in the power rating right now. Gonzaga is 10th in the nation. A lot of that has to do with their early season schedule, which we talked about this at length the other day. Gulf Coast Dave and I. We don't have enough time to go into it. But anyway, they beat Gonzaga at Gonzaga, but now they followed it up with a game last night where they did not look very good against a crappy Loyola Marymount team. They were barely able to get out of there with a win. But anyway, 2-0 on the week, and St. Mary's, I think, is still a team to look at for the tournament. Virginia Commonwealth, the next team from a mid-power conference, they just kicked ass. They won 2 games this week. They won by 16 and they won by 18. And the first game was against George Mason, who were in second place in their conference.
Tough team.
We're talking them up. We were talking them up and saying what a big game that was going to be. Well, Virginia Commonwealth went out there and spanked them. VCU is good, and nobody wants to play those guys. Nobody wants to play them.
It'll be fun. It'll be a great tournament.
smaller conference is Drake. They took on the team that's second in their kind. They took them on the road. They played Northern Iowa. They beat them. They won another game. They're 2-0 on the week. So our mid-level teams that we were looking at, St. Mary's, Virginia Commonwealth, Drake, all had excellent weeks, 2 wins apiece, some of them in very convincing fashion. And then maybe a littler guy, although it's the same kind of conference, it's sort of a mid-conference, with Memphis being on top of the conference with North Texas. North Texas went out and they won 2 games convincingly. So very happy with all those.
Mean Green plays some mean defense.
We took last week.
Yeah.
Yep.
They went into Florida and they played some tough D last night. It was beautiful to watch. They steamrolled, and I thank you for that insight. I put
Green. Loving them. They're not just football anymore.
That's right.
Not just,
we love
what
them.
was that? What was that
on
movie?
The gridiron. We love them on the hardwood.
What was that movie that Kathy Ireland was the kicker for the Mean Green? And
Sinbad but she looked great in shorts. Beautiful.
Oh, she sure did. She looked like she could kick a ball. Through the uprights.
Well, she could double the attendance anyway.
So what are we moving on to? Across the pond?
Let's hear what you have to say across the pond, then we'll jump into our picks for Saturday. And you have 2 tonight. But who you liking there?
Premier League is taking
a break. Round ball.
Playing FA Cup games. I'm going to take a look at a couple different leagues this week. First one I'm looking at is in the Bundesliga. 9:30 tomorrow, Eastern Time. Coming to you direct from Germany. It's RB Leipzig at home against Mainz, Mainz, Mainz. And Mainz is playing a little bit above their heads this year. RB Leipzig a little bit below, but they still continue to respect Leipzig with the odds.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go with Mainz to win this game outright, but I am looking at the draw in this game between RB Leipzig and Mainz, and I'm looking at plus 255 for a tie game. Well, they call a tie a match or a game over there, so I'm going to say the draw. The draw. 255.
I'm offering you a draw. Yeah, I see the total is 2.5, so they're expecting a low scoring game.
Yeah, a tough game, and Mainz has been a surprise team this year. I think
they got 11 victories.
You think they could easily win this game, but I'm gonna play it a little close to the vest and go with the draw in that game. I just think I think it's a very good matchup too. It's going to be a great game.
From Germany, where we
I love watching Bundesliga games on TV. The crowds are loud.
Yeah.
They sing the whole time.
Full of Jägermeister. They sing the brats. They're
I was watching a game in the Bundesliga 2 the other day, where the announcer, of course, he's
God for ESPN for you.
ESPN Plus. He's doing a great job. These announcers are so awesome. It's one of the reasons why I like the sport so much. And the guy, when the game was over, and it had been a fantastic game, he was like, "The Bundesliga 2, which is clearly the best second level of football in Europe." He was going on and on about how much better the Bundesliga 2 is than all the other second tier leagues in Europe. And you know what? I tend to give him I think what he's saying is true. If you look at when they play in their cup games, where the teams from all the different levels are allowed to play each other, like they have the FA Cup in England, they have the Coppa Italiano in Italy, they have the Copa del Rey in Spain, they have the DFK, the Pokal, which means cup, German. Anyway,
thank you.
These second division teams beat the top teams a lot more often than any of those other tournaments. And right now, there's been there was a game the other day where the team from the second division was a decided underdog on the odds board. But when I was looking at how people felt about the game, this one website picked the second level team to win the game outright. And the majority of people who were voting on this little poll online were also picking these guys. So of course I wasn't going to go along with the herd. Well, guess what? They won. They won. They won. And these people knew it. People knew they had a chance to win that game.
Sure.
He did it. My second game, getting away from Germany, although it is fantastic. And even, right, if you got nothing to do and they even have one of these little Bundesliga 2 games on, check it out. Big crowds, people going nuts, singing, drinking. They always, when they show the people in the crowd, they always have a beer in their hand.
Oh, yeah. Beer and brat. And they're always standing. They stand through the whole game. Stand, sing.
I think there's certain sections where you're not allowed to sit. If you sit, they kick you out.
Yeah, that's. I believe it.
Now I'm also looking at Serie A. There's a huge game.
Italian.
Serie A, and it is Napoli against Inter Milan, the big dog, the king of the roost in Italy for the last few years. It's an interesting game. Inter's a little cold, but Napoli's colder. Napoli is not playing well. It's actually one of the reasons why I'm picking them in this game. I'm taking Naples to win this game straight up, plus 210. One of the reasons is their coach, a guy named Antonio Conte, he used to coach Inter. Okay, he used to coach Inter Milan.
Okay.
Coach of Napoli. All right. You got a little bit going on there, don't you?
Sure. A little spark. Right.
Napoli in their last 4 games, they have 3 draws and 1 loss. They have not won a game in the 4 most recent games, which they started off the season great. They were in first place, blah, blah, blah. Hit a little bit of a cold streak here. And they hit a little cold streak even in the international play too. Or, European club tournament play. This coach, Antonio Conte, who has been coaching in Serie A for a very long time for some of the top teams, has never gone 5 games in his coaching career without a win. Never, as in never.
Incentive is there.
Game. They've got 4 games with 3 draws and a loss. I know it's Inter Milan, and but Napoli is still within striking distance of winning the league, and so is Lazio, I think. Because Inter's not running away with it, especially lately. They haven't been doing that great. I'm taking Napoli at home for one thing. At home,
all right.
Plus 210 against Inter Milan. That's my second kickball pick.
All right, duly noted.
Moving on.
Let's move on. Why don't you jump in there? The great thing about the soccer that you're talking about, the bragging rights are so huge, and that's why the effort is there. The crowd, is so great.
But when I hear about talking too much, and then you have me pick the first game tonight, I think you should you should take the lead on the college hoops. You've been hot.
I'm only saying that, but you got games tonight, right?
You don't have any tonight? All right.
No, I do not.
Well, you can chime in on these. You might like the other guys, but I think
fire away, my friend. Fire away.
Like both of my sides. Okay, tonight we have UCLA on the road against Purdue. Purdue with a rather humbling experience the other day against Indiana, kind of letting Indiana back into the tournament picture where, a few weeks ago you would have said, forget it. They're not making it. Hello, NIT. But anyway, they beat Purdue and they beat them pretty convincingly. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, and this is something that we spoke about recently, is it's really a different Purdue team. I'm surprised they're doing as well as they are this year. But there have been some times where they stubbed their toe, and the game against Indiana was certainly one of them. Tonight, they're a 5.5-point favorite against a UCLA team that I just think is a lot better than people give them credit for.
Big surprise in the Big Ten, UCLA.
5.5 against Purdue.
Yeah. It's up to 6.
UCLA is a surprise in basketball, but
no doubt. I love it. And we've been on them. We've had the Brew Crew there. We've had the Bruins. I like that. Yeah, Purdue.
5.5. Make it a game. Let's see what
it's up to 6. It's up to 6 right now in Hard Rock.
Okay. All right. And then the second game is another clash of the Big Ten, real Big Ten teams though this time, and it's Northwestern at home against Iowa. We spoke about this recently. We spoke about it in a couple of games that we handicapped. Northwestern's lost their 2 top players for the season.
Doesn't seem to matter.
They seem to be playing better.
Yeah.
They seem to be playing better without their top 2 guys.
They've got 7 guys, 2 on the bench, 5 on the court, and they win.
And they're playing a team that I just think is very vulnerable against anybody.
Yeah.
Especially on the road against a team. Northwestern seems like they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder right now. And that's the kind of team that they're gelling with this different lineup. And that sometimes can galvanize a team to really, and especially at this time of the year, they're playing so well right now. Look out for them in the Big Ten tournament. They might surprise somebody. They're going to have to do a lot to make the big tournament. That's for sure. Probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. But
against the Hawkeyes,
I like them against Iowa. Yeah, we'll take Northwestern -4.5 against Iowa.
All right,
cooking on a Friday night.
There's a little home cooking on Friday. All right, I've got a couple of Big Ten games for you for Saturday, and both are dogs. I like Washington traveling to the previously spoken Indiana. I think Indiana's got that big hangover, beating Purdue. Take the 3. This is the battle for the bottom.
3?
Yeah, I got 3 points.
Where is that game being played?
That's in Indiana. And Washington's only getting 3. I know. I couldn't believe it myself.
That doesn't sound
fine. Sorry about that. Can I go back? It's in Washington. Let me make sure.
Got it.
Yeah. It's in Washington. You're right. It's in Washington, and I'm just gonna double check. I was doing my homework, and I am correct, sir. It's at Washington. Anyway, take the 3, Washington over fellow Big Ten mate. Yeah, Washington's got a game they could finally win, and it's their final home game. Sticking to that.
Of still patting themselves on the back for their big win against Purdue, and then they got to take that long road trip to a place they've never played before and have fun with that. Hey, listen, just a few years ago, Washington had a pretty damn good team.
Yes, they were.
Good team.
Good program.
So at home against Indiana, love that pick. Nice pick. Love it.
All right, we'll see what happens. Staying with the Big Ten, Minnesota. They're road warriors against the spread. At Nebraska, they're getting 8, which I think is a huge numbers. I think the Gophers hang around, the Gophers, and Nebraska is very sporadic. They're better as underdogs. They they're favorite killers.
Right. They're Nebraska's the kind of team that'll sneak up on somebody and play really well.
Yeah.
But
when they're
this big a favorite, I don't get
when they're
this
underdog. But I do like Minnesota getting 8 at Nebraska. Those are my 2 Big Ten picks.
All right. I like that pick. Very nice. All right. My first one on Saturday, I'm going right off I think it's a 12 noon game. I'm going to go against the team that we've been touting quite a bit lately. And that is Clemson. Taking Virginia +6.5 at home against Clemson, just because Virginia loves to play these low-scoring games.
They got more guts than sense.
Exactly. They like to run the shot clock down to the very last second. Throw up a 3. If they're hitting a few of them, maybe they can hang around. And with all the big games that Clemson's been playing lately, maybe they take this one a little lightly, and Virginia can hang around with that. So that's my first pick for Saturday. Virginia against Clemson. A second pick, I'm going back to your favorite conference, apparently, the Big Ten. And I'm going against another team that we recently touted as a team that we like going into the tournament, and that's Maryland. I'm taking Penn State at home, +4.5 against Maryland. Penn State is done all season long. They'll look terrible a couple games in a row, and then they'll bounce back against somebody decent and really play a good game. So I'm looking for them to play well tomorrow. +4.5 against Maryland. That poor kid Gillespie who missed that 3-pointer at the end of the game against State, and then Michigan State turned around, threw in a 60-footer. Anyway,
college basketball,
yeah.
gotta
So
love it.
A little disheartened over their loss, and I think Penn State might sneak up on them here a little bit, give them a tougher game than they would have thought. All right, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump over the ACC team, a team that you called your sleeper, and a team that needs to break a 2-game losing streak. Wake only giving 6 against a very weak Notre Dame team. Yeah, I like the Deacons. They're good. They're very good at home. They've had a couple of rough games. NC State, Virginia, they dropped 2 in a row. But the Golden Domers are having a very poor year. So I like Wake at home. Give the 6. And I think they're going to take the Irish. No problem.
Yeah. All right. I like that because, I was just talking up Wake as my ACC sleeper team. All right. Very good. Let me write you down for Wake. And now I'm getting into some massive SEC games. I got my last 3 are all SEC.
Here we go.
One is obviously the game of the day. The first one, maybe this could be a co-game of the game of the day, I guess. Kentucky at home against Auburn. Obviously, Auburn has been having quite the season. I think they stubbed their toe here. I'm taking Kentucky, another home team dog, plus 4.5 against Auburn. I'm looking for my man from Newark, the big man for Kentucky, to have another monster game, and let Auburn, check their heart rate a little bit here, and maybe regroup a little bit going into the SEC tournament, realizing that these other teams are tough. They know it. I mean, I like the number. I think it's a little too fat for Kentucky at home against Auburn, plus 4.5.
Yeah, tough team to go against Auburn. They've been, lights out. But they're due to stub their toe. We thought it was going to be last game. Hopefully, for the Davers, it's this one. I'm staying in the Midwest, not necessarily the Big Ten. The Battle of I-90, St. Louis Billikens.
Oh, boy.
The Loyola ex-Ramblers. We love them.
Ramblers.
I'm going with the home thing. Ramblers, now the Wolves or whatever they are, the Ramblers to me, thrashed the Billikens at home. Now they're down in St. Louis, right next to the Arc there.
You're going against your school? Drive. You're going against your team?
Oh,
my God. The Billikens.
Lay the 2 against the Ramblers. St. Louis, this is a grudge match. It's always a tough battle between the 2. Right. I think they take Loyola at home. Long bus ride back home to Chicago for the Loyola Ramblers. St. Louis Billikens, -2.
All right. Moving on. I am sticking in the SEC. I mean, I guess I thought maybe this was the game of the day, but then again, when you think that the other game had number 1, and what's Kentucky? Kentucky's
17.
Okay. But still, number 1 against a ranked team at the lower ranked team's place, and it's Kentucky at Rupp. It's gonna be a tough task for Auburn. I'm liking Kentucky more even than when I was just talking about it. But I'm looking at the game of the day, which I believe is Tennessee at home against Alabama. I really like to watch Alabama. And I guess that's maybe a little bit because they kind of get up and down. But they don't play.
Yeah, they're fun to watch.
They don't play good enough defense. But now they're playing at Tennessee. Tennessee giving a few points here, even though a lot of people taking Bama on the money line here, I think. But anyway, I'm looking at Tennessee -3.5 against Alabama. I think they put the clamps on these guys. I think the defense steps to the front. And our coach, who put a lot of years in down there at Texas, now is having a lot of success at Tennessee too, is going to figure out a way to slow down that Alabama offense and get the job done at home. I'm definitely sticking with a lot of home cooking this week. I got home.
This is the time.
That's 4 home teams so far. So And then my next team's a home team also. So, all right, you're up. Last pick.
Last pick, going back to the well. St. Mary's, I'm going to lay the big number again. I think, like you said, they struggled against Loyola Marymount.
When did they play? They just played last night.
Yeah, they played Loyola Marymount. They play Oregon State.
Is that Sunday or Saturday?
Yeah, they're terrible on the road. I think St. Mary's, this is their last home game in front of the home crowd. I think they're serving up some beaver and lay the 11.5. St. Mary's is going to go out flying. I don't think they're going to do too much in the tournament. We were talking about that, but they could certainly handle this team that is very weak. St. Mary's minus 11.5 against Oregon State.
I was taking St. Mary's as my team out of the West Coast Conference to do a little damage this year, but not so sure.
I'm not so sure either. Any of those teams are any good.
That game last night, I watched quite a bit of it against Loyola.
Yeah.
They didn't look good. They look real good against Gonzaga.
A little flat on the road.
Are this really well-respected team, Gonzaga? Okay, we got the 1 minute warning coming up. Looking at my last game here.
Bring it home, Daver.
Going back to the Gators, Florida. The number is telling me a lot in this game. Texas A&M is a good team. Yes, they burned it, but they were playing a good team. That's the problem with the SEC is you keep bouncing up against these good teams. And even some of the mediocre teams that can bite you in the ass, like Georgia. But anyway, Florida, minus 8.5 against A&M. Really? Yeah. I see too many people licking their chops, taking the points. I'm taking Florida, minus 8.5 against A&M. Bring it.
All right. There you have it from both continents. We got our Dave and Dave picks, and get used to these great games because there's more coming, and hopefully we got some more winners.
I just think they got lucky with the scheduling. We just have all these, ranked teams playing each other. Just interesting matchups. Really, really good games tomorrow. Even a few on Sunday, I think, but definitely tomorrow.